So let's take a non-stop flight into danger as we jump back to the early 90s and check out the film that launched the action movie career of Wesley Snipes with Passenger 57. Airline security specialist John Cutter is still mourning the violent death of his wife when his friend Sly Del Vecchio offers him a cushy executive position in a premium airline company. However, what Cutter doesn't know is that Charles Rain, a feared and ruthless terrorist, has just been captured by the FBI and has been put on the exact same plane as him to be transported to California for trial. However, everything goes wrong when Rain's people kill the federal agents and hijack the plane, leaving Cutter as the only one capable of thwarting their plans. Yet Rain proves to be a horrifying adversary who is willing to let countless innocents die in order to see his plans succeed. Now Cutter will have to match wits with this calculating sociopath in order to take him down to save a plane full of hostages. So November 6th of 1992 saw the release of Passenger 57 from Warner Brothers Pictures, grossing $44 million domestically off a mere $15 million budget, made it a pretty solid success and definitely again launched the action movie career of Wesley Snipes after he already had some really good films under his belt such as Major League, New Jack City, White Man Can't Jump. But this definitely gave him another avenue to explore in his entire career. And Passenger 57 has a little bit of a history behind it in terms of the development process it went through because original script from Stuart Raffle was originally kind of designed much more like a Clint Eastwood vehicle where Eastwood's character would be going overseas to bury his son and then the plane gets hijacked by Iranian terrorists and Eastwood's character eventually turns the tables on them and holds them hostage to get American prisoners released overseas. Ends up being too politically charged for the studio head and really didn't care for it. He just like, that's way too hot button. It's going to really hit all the wrong notes and just wanted to get someone else involved to kind of rewrite the script in a much different fashion. Enter two different screenwriters here. One was Dane Gordon, who would end up doing films like the Kevin Costner film White Earp and work on The Hurricane and recently had a story credit on Rambo Last Blood. And David Lowery here, who had previously done the film Dreamscape, did win him a co-writing job on Star Trek V, The Final Frontier, which is generally considered one of the worst Star Trek films in the entire franchise. But these two guys come together and they end up working on the script to rewrite it and put it together as much more of a mainstream action film that's much more wider appealing and less politically charged and all the type of stuff, and much more of a thing people can just get into as a popcorn action film in a certain way. And tied up with a director named Kevin Hooks here, who has a very interesting filmography where the majority of his credits are through TV. He's done a lot of one-shot stuff on primetime dramas throughout the decades. Done a lot of episodes like Prison Break, Preacher, stuff like that in recent years. And he ended up doing like the film Fled with Lawrence Fishburne, Stephen Baldwin, a few other little things, but this was kind of like the first major action film he'd end up working on, and it's very impressive what he can bring to this whole thing, because sometimes you can see that when someone works in a lot of TV, especially back in the days, 80s, 90s type of stuff, not as much cinematic flair to certain things. There's not as much a scale to what they're doing on the screen and whatnot, but paired up with a fantastic cinematographer, Mark Irwin, who had shot pretty much every David Cronenberg film in the 80s, along with later on Wes Craven's New Nightmare and Scream. Phenomenal cinematographer, and he, along with Kevin Hooks, put together a very solid package here that looks so damn good, so absolutely freaking polished in every regard. This looks like a very high quality feature from a director. Again, had a lot of experience, but not a lot of film, theatrical type of stuff behind him. And so it just really kind of struck me how well he put this film together in terms of the sharp, efficient way of he just moves the film along and just very structured in a very simple type of way. There's a very streamlined narrative here that I kind of like the fact that it's like, I like kind of like these early 90s action films where there's a very lean story going on. There's not a lot of stuff to complicate the plot. There's not a lot of overly indulgent type of stuff in the story or whatnot. It doesn't get out of hand. They keep things very tight and focused in a certain way to keep things just moving forward on very slick type of fashion here. And Kevin Hooks definitely shows that ability here with this film to keep the thing moving, to keep the progression going, keep the interest and all that type of stuff. Just from the beginning of the film, I like the fact that, again, you start the film hot. You start with this film where you got Charles Rainey. He's just about to get this plastic surgery to change his appearance. Apparently something he's done before. And the FBI just jumps in and there's a chase scene and all this type of stuff. Then you move into this whole sort of almost fake out situation here where you see Snipes' character on the plane and do this whole hijacking thing, but you find out that it's actually a swerve and whatnot. It's just a training exercise. It just keeps things on their toes. It keeps the thing interesting. Right from the beginning of the film, you keep that moving, and that's a credit to the screenplay, but how it's executed is so much credit to director Kevin Hooks here, who just puts together a very solid piece of work in terms of how he just makes the whole film feel organic and how it moves from one beat to the next, how it connects the dots of all the little things that are going on in the whole film. Just certain moments I like, in certain points where you got the character Charles Rain here portrayed by Bruce Payne. When he's about to get loaded on the plane, you just got these little moments where you just have the shot go off to someone in the distance there, kind of impersonating one of the flight crew or whatnot, and you just see these eye lines, all these little things that kind of connects the pieces of the story, what's going on and what's kind of anticipating where things are going to go. It's really smart type of stuff to get those little connective tissues into the whole thing to convey the plot to the audience while having to have things explained to them. And the cinematography of Mark Irwin, again, very polished type of stuff. This guy really knows how to make a high quality looking feature, and so much a credit to Warner Brothers Blu-ray mastering department. The thing still looks like a modern film today. It just looks so goddamn good. And there's so much a credit to what Mark Irwin can bring to the quality of a film. And other people who are bringing a lot of quality to this film is definitely the cast here, which I think a lot of the cast really does elevate such a simple story here in a certain way, where I think just what you get here, again, Wesley Snipes, you can see entirely. It's not his best action film, but you can see that the quality of what people latched onto with what he had to offer here. Again, he had built himself up a little bit with the comedy, a little bit of the drama stuff, and he's got all the different things to go off of, plus the great martial arts action he can inject into the film adds a little extra flavor to the whole thing. And again, of course, he's always charismatic on screen. He's just got such a wonderful quality, so much savvy in what he does with all his characters. Really kind of tunes in so much on the emotional qualities, which his character definitely has of John Cutter here, because he's got the whole backstory with the armed robbery that happened at the convenience store, and his wife gets killed because he kind of makes a wrong decision, reads the situation not entirely right, and the guy kills her and everything. So he's got this weight of being trepidatious about stepping back into the field of certain things and getting into the thick of the action of certain things. So you can see that weighing on him, and I like how they play that later on when they're actually on the plane and Rain has the hostage there and all these type of things, and they replay that moment. I think that's such a really good point to inform the character, give him a little bit of depth, where the film doesn't explore characters quite as deeply as some other films might. But you get little beats like that into the film, little pieces you can add in to an emotional makeup to give a certain dynamic for the actor of Wesley Snipes here to kind of grapple with and kind of feed into the overall quality of the character he's portraying here. I really like how that kind of fits into the entire makeup of the character here, and how it informs certain things going forward is really smart type of stuff. I just like how Snipes brings so much to the character. You just bring so much quality as a, again, charismatic, solid action hero. All that type of stuff really comes off very, very well. But you've got a really fantastic villain here, Bruce Payne, where I've already covered him in Highlander Endgame, where he's just full tilt chewing the living crap out of scenery and just like having some terrible dialogue and stuff like that. But goddamn, when you have the right script and a really good piece of work here, Charles Rain, portrayed by Bruce Payne, is a fucking villain, man. He is fucking deadly. I was just very impressed by Bruce Payne in terms of his performance, how focused it was compared to a lot later stuff. Even stuff like, you get him in that Dungeons and Dragons movie where he's also chewing up scenery left, right, and center, inside and out. When you get him the right script and just get him focused in the right way, man, he can really deliver such really good shit, man. I just like, he's just fearsome. I just love the fact that this guy's just cold-blooded, ruthless stuff, man. He does not give a shit about anyone. Everyone's expendable in his eyes until he gets exactly what he wants. He will kill anyone he wants to get whatever the hell he wants. Doesn't matter what. I like how they have even talk in the film like There was a situation, I think it was, they were talking about over in Europe or whatnot, Britain, where he just kind of blew up an entire bus worth of people just as a smoke screen so he could escape. So he just has no qualms about killing mass amounts of people just to get to safety, just to escape the clutches of law enforcement, wherever it is. And Bruce Payne delivers on that. He's so good. He's so just dialed into it so much. I love how he's just kind of intelligent and just ruthlessly, fiercely cunning in this whole film. Just like you see every little intelligent beat that he's working out in his head, and he's just so economical with what he's doing on screen. He doesn't flex any more muscle than he has to in a certain scene. Just like he's so razor sharp in certain moments where he's dealing with Snipes as Cutter there. So it's like, I love the whole thing right before the third act of the film, where they're just there together in this sort of mock interrogation room of sorts, and Cutter's getting all kind of physical with him, throwing him around and stuff. Like, Payne, man, he's so still focused so much. That's such the word for the performance. He's so dialed straight deeply into the mechanics and the calculations of the character, all this type of stuff. He can see past it all. He can see past Cutter's bravado, his heated stuff. Just like, he's so methodical and so scarily smart in what he's doing. He has every little thing planned out to the almost nth degree here, that he's so electric on screen. He's definitely one of the best. I'm not going to say top 10, but in the pantheon of action movie villains, he's very, very good. And he got some other good stuff in this film. Tom Sizemore. I really love Tom Sizemore in this era. This is sort of late 80s into 90s era, doing stuff like Small Point Break. You do Strange Days. You have Rolling Heat. All these things. Like, in the 90s, he was so much in the zone, on top of his game. So damn good. I like, again, a charismatic character. He's so much sharp and smart and kind of funny in a certain way. It's like he's so much on top of the situation in a certain way. It's such an engaging character. He's got such an energy on screen and everything. He works so perfectly well with Snipes. They got such a great chemistry here in all the scenes they have. Sizemore's great. He's a great goddamn actor, and just like, more I see of him, the more I absolutely love him. And kind of interesting here, before she got any kind of notoriety, Elizabeth Hurley shows up here as a flight attendant turned henchwoman and does a pretty damn good job of it too. You got Bruce Greenwood showing up here as the head of the airline, all this type of stuff, and just like, it's a really fantastic cast. Everyone's really solid in every role they're put in. So it's like, it's a good thing about the directing, the casting, the writing, everything is really on point to just make sure that all the characters come together and the right tones, the right qualities, all these different things. It's really solidly put together. That's the best thing I can say about it. It's solid. And then it's kind of also solid in most cases is the score from Stanley Clarke, who had been like a bass player in a fusion jazz band, stuff like that, and as well as a film composer. And you can definitely tell in the main theme he's kind of putting together this film, kind of on the opening end credits, a few of those places that you can see some of that kind of slap bass jazz fusion feel to it. And I don't know, it doesn't really entirely do it for me, but he doesn't let that flow through the entire film. The rest is very orchestral, very solid, thrilling type of stuff. He puts together a really good package here in terms of just the action beats, the emotional qualities that he has to get out of the score and everything. So, aside from the opening end credit stuff and the kind of song they put together at the end, not quite feeling it in that regard, but everything else hits the money where it has to, where the action and the drama kind of hits off in really good places. So, no problems there. And just like, the film's not like chock full of like identifiable, definitive action sequences. It's one of those things like it's a good, solid, streamlined, simple story that probably again like doesn't explore the characters quite as in depth as you possibly could get as much going for, because the film runs only 83 minutes long, and in television broadcasts early on there's apparently a few little extra extended bits of scenes here and there and everything. Nothing long, but little extensions that kind of drag it out a little bit more to fill up the proper network run times, all that type of stuff. But it feels like there's enough runtime you possibly could have explored characters a little bit more deeply, or kind of, I don't know. I just feel like there's a little bit stripped down to the bone in a certain way to the most part of how the story progresses. not a bad story in type of way, but I think there was room for a little bit more to be done with it. I do feel like a lot of the film's momentum, where most of it's very solid, very tight type of stuff, kind of loses it after they leave the plane, after the Snipes character pulls and dumps the fuel and everything, and they have to land, and they go off in the fairgrounds, and you kind of lose some of the momentum, some of the tension there. But once, again, you get out to that scene where Cutter and Rain are in the sort of interrogation room, they kind of get back in the plane and all that type of stuff, it all ramps right back up to where it was before. So the containment on the environment of the plane really kind of adds something to it. And it's not so much like a Die Hard on a plane where people kind of seem to kind of like slap on. I think that's much more, Air Force One is much more akin to that. This is much more of just like a straight sort of action thriller in a certain way that doesn't rely on that type of template. I think there's a few little scenes that you could possibly kind of supercut it to make people think that, but I don't think there's an overall kind of Die Hard template put on this film in any type of way. I think it's a very kind of interesting type of thriller in a certain way, in terms of just how you have the dynamics, all these different things, how they kind of use the environment of the plane a little bit, but not a whole lot. I think the film could have had like one major, solid, really fantastic action sequence somewhere to really kind of make it a definitive stamp on itself, but that's not to degrade the quality of what the film got put into. It's a very solid piece of work. It's a solid action thriller that has room for improvement, but it doesn't have a detriment to itself in terms of being a bad film. It doesn't really falter anywhere except for that little part where they go into the fairground and lose a little bit of that sort of suspense and that kind of energy the film had up to that point. You're really kind of jonesing for it to get back on the plane and get into that feeling again, and they definitely do that, and you get the entire fight at the end of the film between the two main characters of the film there, that big throw-up and everything. So they do deliver good action, they do deliver good characters, all that type of stuff. I think there's good stuff to be had throughout the entire film. Again, you can see why Snipes got launched out of this film. You can kind of see how it made a bit of a splash there at the box office, because like, okay, at this time, it's like, that's the type of thing that's in fashion, that stuff you get on with like Seagal and some other Bruce Willis movies and wherever it was, maybe just off that type of feeling and whatnot. That kind of feels like an early 90s action film, definitely. That's definitely the flavor of the time. And I think Snipes did a very solid job, along with everyone else, going into this film and making a really good, well-rounded film with a few little fall-offs here and there, just not anything that's condemnable. It's like anything I have to say like that as a criticism, it's just a tad bit, and it was like, you could have done a little bit more here, a little bit there, little sprinkle of something here. It's like, it's nothing huge that the film doesn't do right. It's a really good piece of work. I think it's a really nice film that's not exceptional. It's not one of the best ever, but it's enjoyable. It's satisfying. Again, it's so much the performances. Just between Snipes and Payne, you get a lot of juice in this film. You get so much. If you got actors who just didn't have the charisma, they didn't have that sort of quality, that penetrating intensity on screen, all that type of stuff, and the versatile nature that Snipes can bring to a role, where he's got like a few moments where it's a little humorous, and then there's a few moments where a little bit more downbeat. He's got all the range of things covered in this whole thing. If you didn't have people that had this quality of acting talent within them, the film would definitely become far more mediocre, despite the quality of direction, if you didn't have the actors to bring the electricity, the magnetism that these guys do. It would fall off greatly. So you can definitely make that so much a credit to the value those guys brought to these performances. Absolutely. So get your comments down below about Passenger 57, because it's a kind of a nice little thing. It's like, we get a few little things, like you had that Liam Neeson movie Nonstop a couple of years ago, which was all right. I did a review of it at the time, and it was all right. It wasn't great. I'd have to revisit it to be able to compare it to this thing, because it's been a few years. But I got nothing else to say. So guys, throw your comments below. Always, if you enjoy what I have here, definitely the thumbs up is so deeply appreciated, because YouTube's always fucking around with algorithms, stuff like that. So the more you engage with what I have, leave your own opinions, your viewpoints on what I have to share with you guys, definitely improves the reach of the channel here and everything like that. So you are very important to the growth of this channel. You interacting, you putting all that stuff there, if you're sharing stuff around, wherever it is, expanding the interaction of the channel here, you make this channel better. So that's so much the thing there. And also there's always the Patreon to get a little advanced viewings of new content and full downloadable database of every audio commentary we've ever done, which is over 70 right now. We cover stuff in the Lethal Weapon franchise, Elm Street, Friday the 13th, Halloween, Scream franchise. We're going to be starting up the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise this next year. So we've got a whole ton of stuff for you guys to delve into if you've not involved yourself into it. And you get it all downloaded straight off from our Patreon account. So guys, thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.